Last mistake of the night there. The Six Shooter was a Western that aired one season on NBC from 1953 to 1954. It starred Hollywood icon James Stewart as Britt Pomsett, a cowboy drifter in the final years of the Wild West. In this episode, Britt tells a young boy a story about Christmas that you might find familiar. So let's go back to December 20th, 1953 on NBC. The show is called The Six Shooter, and this episode was called Britt Pomsett's Christmas Carol. James Stewart as the Six Shooter. The man in the saddle is angular and long-legged. His skin is sundive brown. The gun in his holster a gray steel and rainbow mother of pearl. Its handle unmarked. People call him the Six Shooter. The NBC Radio Network presents James Stewart as the Six Shooter, a transcribed series of radio dramas based on the life of Britt Pomsett, the Texas plainsman who wandered through the Western territories, leaving behind a trail of still-remembered legends. There was a nip in the air, not a freezing, biting, angry nip, but a sort of tingle that made the morning stars shimmer and swung them out of their orbits a little closer to the earth. It was a winter nip, all right, but not a hard winter. Not a winter when the cattle would come down from the high places, hooking their noses into the ice-encrusted ground. It was a mild winter nip, mild enough so the breath on the boy on the pinto turned only a faint gray as he rode towards the campfire where the man was sitting.
Howdy.
Hello, mister. I see your fire. I thought maybe you wouldn't mind if I gave my pony a chance to warm up.
Sure. Make yourself at home.
Easy, Blackie, easy. Are you headed for Thompson's Corners, mister?
That's right.
Well, I just came from there.
Oh, why, you must have been riding all night.
Well, just about. You see, I'm running away from home.
Oh, is that so? Well, seems kind of a funny thing you'd pick this time of the year to run away. So close to Christmas, I mean.
Oh, I hate Christmas.
Oh?
Oh, it's just for kids anyhow.
Well,
I heard Aunt Millie say so. Christmas is for children, that's what she said. Johnny's old enough to do without all that fuss and nonsense.
You don't live with your folks, Johnny?
No, sir. They died about 8 months ago.
Oh, I see.
Christmas was all right when when I was with them. Of course, I was a lot younger then.
Oh, yes.
It just beats me the way folks take Christmas so serious.
Well, I don't know.
As if getting presents made any difference. As if I really cared about that knife.
Oh, is that what you wanted, a pocket knife?
Oh, I don't want a knife. I don't want anything. I just wish there wasn't any Christmas, that's all.
Well, I guess you're not the first person to feel that way. You know, it seems to me I remember reading a story once about a fellow who came the same way and felt the same way about Christmas just as you do. Just didn't have any use for it.
Well, what happened to him?
Well, I doubt if I could call it to mind after all this time, but as I recollect now, I remind you this might not be word for word, but as I recollect, the man that it's about, the one that hated Christmas, that is, well, he was a real skinflint. He was just as stingy as they come. His name was, let me see, Eben, something like that.
Eben?
Eben, yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. Well, I'm being so tight-fisted, this fella Eben, he got to be the richest man in the whole territory.
He owned a ranch?
Sure. He had 4 of them. 4 ranches and 4 buildings and farms and maybe a bank or 2.
Well, he was rich. Well, I bet he had a mighty fine ranch house.
No, he didn't have a ranch house. Eben wasn't the sort to spend money on a ranch house unless there was a profit in it. You see, he just lived alone in town and had himself a steady room at the hotel. But anyway, one night while Eben was sitting in his room having supper, Christmas Eve it was. Well, on this particular Christmas Eve, his only kin and nephew lived in the same town. He stopped by the hotel.
To wish you a Merry Christmas, Uncle, and invite you to our place for dinner tomorrow.
Christmas? Fiddlesticks! I suppose you'll be closing up your stable for the occasion.
Why, sure, Uncle Eb.
And just how will the horses know it's Christmas? Answer me that.
Well, if they don't know it, we will. Can I tell Sally to expect you at 3?
You can expect me all you like, but I ain't coming. Not at 3 or any other time. Oh, if you're making so much money you can afford to give parties, maybe I ought to think about raising the rent on the stable.
Oh, now.
Now get out of here before I lose my temper. All this nonsense about Christmas. Fiddlesticks.
Well, after that, Johnny, the nephew, didn't stick around there. He got out of Eben's room with a regular gallop. But it wasn't very long before Eben had another visitor. He was a young fella, tall, lanky, not very good at speaking, just a plain and ordinary cowpoke. He was the foreman of the S&M ranch.
Well, it took you long enough to get here. Where have you been? Selling off some of my herd without telling me about it?
No, sir. The day you rode by, I was out on the range hunting strays.
It was a good thing I desired to check up on you, sure. What's that cabin doing over by Hobby Creek? And who are all those people staying there?
They're my family. I built the shack for them myself.
I'm not going to have a bunch of nesters in my property. Tear it down.
But one of my boys has been sick. I can't afford to rent.
As if it was my concern. It's up to you to take care of your family and what you earn. So see that you get rid of that shack tomorrow.
But tomorrow is Christmas.
Well, then you'll have plenty of free time to tear it down. I'll be out the day after to make sure you've done it. Good night.
Well, there wasn't much use in arguing. Foreman knew that, so he put on his hat and shuffled out. Now Eben was alone again. At least he thought he was alone. The clock on the mantel started striking 8, and it was about the time he turned in. Oh. So he put on his flannel nightshirt and he reached for the kerosene lamp to put on the stool beside the bed. And right about then, the strangest thing happened.
What's that?
Johnny, old Eben saw a man's face looking right at him from inside that lamp. Eyes, hair, nose, mouth, whiskers, all just as plain as day.
Jake.
It was old Jake, Eben's partner. There wasn't any mistake about it at all. It was Jake, right to a T. Well, Eben sure didn't like the idea of having Jake right in the same room with him. You see, Jake had been dead for over 7 years. Not that Eben really believed in ghosts or haunts or anything like that. He just told himself he was imagining all this.
I gotta get hold of myself.
He put out his hand to turn down the wick, but all of a sudden his fingers just started trembling. There was Jake again, across the room this time, standing right by the mirror. And when the lamp slipped out of his hand, the room didn't get dark at all. Jake seemed to be surrounded by a splotch of bright yellow light. And he was wearing the same boots and breeches and leather jacket that he had on 7 years ago, the day he died. But as Jake came closer, Eben could see he was wearing something else. A small leather saddle was strapped across his back, and hanging down from it were 2 saddlebags, stuffed so full of gold nuggets and mortgage papers and land grants that Jake could hardly drag them across the floor.
You recognize me, Eben?
Sure, it's you, Jake. Why, sure, I would never forget you. But what are you doing here, and why are you wearing the get-up?
Always thinking about land and money. Always scheming and conniving. That's why I wear it. And that's why I've come to warn you, Evan. The saddle you are fixing up for yourself is even heavier than mine.
Well, I don't know what you mean, Jake. I ain't done no wrong. I ain't never done folks no wrong.
Have you ever done them any good? Any good at all?
Why, sure, I've worked hard. I've saved my money. I ain't been a burden on anybody. Well, you should see our ranches, Jake. Well, the way I've built them up.
I have seen them many times. And I've seen a lot more than that, too. That's my punishment. To spend eternity traveling around, seeing mankind with its trials and tribulations, with its joys and hopes.
Is that so terrible?
Oh, heaven, to watch them and not be able to help them. You'll find out how terrible it is. You'll find out.
There must be some way of avoiding this. You always were my friend, Jake. Tell me what to do.
You've got to find out for yourself, Evan.
But how?
Tonight, at 1 o'clock, you'll be haunted by a ghost.
Another ghost?
Indeed, Evan. Pay him some heed.
Wait, Jake. Don't leave me without. Jake!
The yellow light sort of faded away and the ghost was gone. It was just like he hadn't even been there. And then something caught the corner of Evan's eye. A little glimmer on the floor, and he bent over to pick it up.
What's this? A gold nugget. Now, where on earth did this come?
And then he remembered those saddlebags of Jake's. They'd been filled clear to the brim with gold nuggets.
Thank you for all the support you've given the six-shooter throughout the season. But we want to tell you that on December 2nd, the six-shooter will be moving to Thursdays on NBC. Now let's continue with the second half of the six-shooter, Britt Pomsett's Christmas Carol.
Gee whiz, a gold nugget? So Jake's ghost really had been there, huh, mister?
There just wasn't any doubt about it, Johnny.
What happened then? Did the other spook turn up? The one Jake said was coming to see Evan?
Oh, sure, Johnny, sure. Yeah, he was right on time, too. Evan was lying in bed, wide awake, of course. He hadn't been able to do much sleeping. Too scared, you know. He was kind of peculiar. Evan was half scared the ghost would come and half scared he wouldn't. But before the sound of the clock had died away, there he was. He was sitting in Evan's rocking chair like he had been there all night long. And this ghost was a young fella, maybe 18, 19, all duded up the way young bucks like to dress. You know, fancy chaps in checkered shirt and red bandana tied around his neck.
Howdy, Evan. Heard you've been expecting me.
I guess so.
You're ready to take a little trip?
Where to?
Back. Way back through the years.
But how can I go?
It's real easy. You see, I am the ghost of Christmas past. Your past, Evan.
The next thing Evan knew, he and that ghost were standing out on a snow-covered prairie. There was a circle of covered wagons in front of them, and the people from the wagons were gathered together, listening to a tall, white-bearded man. He was reading the Bible.
And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord.
The ghost turned and pointed to a boy sitting away from the others on the tailboard of one of the wagons. Small boy, about 10 years old, with hollowed cheeks and his eyes all red from crying.
Oh, no.
It was Eben himself, on a Christmas day a long, long time ago. Not a very happy Christmas either. It was only a week since the auction stampede, and his ma had been killed when she fell from the wagon. His pa had died from an Apache arrow in his chest.
Oh, I don't want to look at him anymore. Can't you show me another Christmas?
Well, it was no sooner said than done. Now Eben and the ghost were in a bunkhouse. And then Eben saw himself again. He was 10 years older than the boy in the prairie. He was lying on a blanket, staring up at the ceiling. And then his pal Jake came running in, all out of breath.
Come on, Eb. Get a clean shirt on. We got an invite to a party.
Huh?
Yeah, the boss is throwing a big shindig. Says he'll fire us if we don't show up.
Eben couldn't help remembering that party. Oh, the roast beef and the baked ham, square dancing and the pretty girls. He couldn't help saying out loud to the ghost.
Yeah, how I was.
What was that, Eben?
Nothing, Mr. Spirit. Nothing at all. I was just remembering how I treated my foreman today. That's all.
After that, the ghost took Eben to 3 or 4 more of those Christmases. And none of them was very happy, especially that Christmas when the young schoolgirl, sitting on the sofa, unwrapped the tiny box Eben gave her and then handed it back to him.
It's a lovely ring, Eben, but I can't wear it.
Oh, you're not courting somebody else?
No, Eben, but you are. You're courting something else.
What?
Land and cattle, profits. They mean more to you than I ever would. I'm sorry.
Mr. Ghost, no more of the past. Please, I've seen enough. A man wants to forget.
Sure, Eben. Whatever you say.
And before Eben could blink his eyes, he was right back in that hotel room. But once he got there, he blinked real hard because all of a sudden the ghost was becoming a different person. He was getting fatter and his stomach popped out 2 or 3 inches. A few wrinkles creased his cheeks, and finally his chaps turned into a shiny blue suit with a heavy gold chain dangling across his vest.
What's happening? Why are you so different now?
You seem to be getting tired of the past, so I thought we might take a gander at the present, if you got no objections.
The hotel room just melted away, and Eben was looking at that cabin his foreman had built on Holly Creek. Well, that cabin sure was crowded. Oh, there must have been 5 or 6 children all helping their mother getting out the Christmas dinner, all laughing and talking. Well, when their father came in, he had a long face and a tired mouth, and his wife looked up and wanted to know what was troubling him.
Well, I was thinking about old Eben.
Well, that's not a very pleasant thought for Christmas, Bob. Oh, by the way, what did you want to tell me yesterday? Was it about this cabin?
Oh, no, of course not. Well, let's get on with this dinner. Sit down, everybody. Now, where's my Tim?
Now, Bob looked all around the room. He was pretending he didn't see the little fellow in the corner. The boy with an iron brace on his leg and a wooden crutch up against the wall. The little champ wasn't going to be ignored.
Here I am.
Oh. Bob picked him up and carried him over to the table.
God bless this food, this house, and us and our friends, even old Eben. Amen.
The family found that part about Evan a little hard to swallow. But they managed, and Tim was the last one to chime in.
God bless us, everyone.
Evan didn't want to watch what was going on in that cabin any longer, but the next case the ghost showed him wasn't any easier on him. It was a big party going on at his nephew's house. One of the ladies was blindfolded, and she was trying to pin the tail onto a donkey. But there was something peculiar about the donkey, about the way it was drawn. It looked more like a person than an animal. Well, Evan recognized who it was supposed to be right away.
See, folks, I invited Uncle Evan to be with us, but he turned me down flat. So I figured we'd have him here in the spirit, if not in the flesh.
Right back in the hotel room again. That's where Evan found himself.
Spirit, you showed me the past, the present. What's left to see?
The future, Eben. The future.
And that's how Evan came to see a Christmas of the future. A cold, bitter Christmas. There were two men standing on a street corner. Coat collars turned up so they could keep the snow out.
Oh, he's dead all right, dead as a doornail. Sure, it's a Christmas present I ever expected. At least whoever handles his property won't have to be so hard to deal with as he was. I wonder if they'll bother giving him a funeral.
And in a frame house near the side of the street on the edge of town, a woman was speaking to her husband.
Funny, to me he has been dead for years. I haven't even thought of him since I didn't know when. Would you know, once I was really fond of him?
Ghost. Who are they talking about? Who's that man on the street? That woman I used to know. Who is it that's dead? Tell me.
And the ghost slowly turned and stretched out a long, thin, bony finger, and right there at the end of that finger was a tombstone all covered with weeds. Evan could barely make out the name that was carved on it.
Ebenezer Scrooge. No. What's this? Where am I?
You know what? He was right in his own bed, in his own nightshirt, and the sun streaming through the frosted windows. But Evan didn't stay there for very long, not long at all. He got into his boots and trousers fast as he could and dashed down the stairs out into the street. Well, seeing that the store had been closed gave Evan quite a problem. Well, he'd have to make Fuzzy Wagner just open the butcher shop, that's all. Of course, Fuzzy didn't have a choice, seeing that the shop is located at one end of the building. When Evan told him what he wanted, a turkey and a ham, well...
No. You better make it 2 hams and send it up to the cabin on the S&M ranch, and for them not to know that I ordered them. You understand, Fuzzy? Here's the money and a little extra for your troubles.
Before Fuzzy could get his jaw shut up again, Evan was on his way, headed straight out to his nephew's house. And Evan was the life of the party, too. On the way, he carried on laughing and making jokes, telling stories about himself. He insisted they use the donkey to put his face on it when they were playing those games.
'Cause that's what I've been all these years. A real 4-footed, long-eared donkey. Yes.
The next morning, though, that's what Evan enjoyed the most. He was up bright and early and hitched the team to the buckboards and drove out to the S&M, hurrying up the horses all the way.
Come on, Bess. Come on, Martha.
If he could just get out there before his foreman started tearing down that cabin.
Slow, Bess. Slow, Martha. Yeah, well, Robert, I see you haven't carried out my orders.
Well, it was Christmas. I just couldn't tell them I'd do it today.
No, this is the last straw. I'm not putting up with your shenanigans any longer, young fellow. That cabin is coming down. No buts about it. And then we're building a new ranch house in its place. Big enough for you and your whole family.
What?
Oh, yes. And I'm also doubling your wages as of last week. Merry Christmas, Bob. Even if I am a day late. Oh, not a day. More like half a lifetime. But Merry Christmas anyway. And as your son says, God bless us, everyone.
Well, that's the way things worked out, Johnny, more or less.
Well, that's a fine story, mister. Real fine. And I know why you told it to me.
How's that?
So I understand about Christmas and how important it is to do for other people instead of just thinking about yourself.
Well, no, I didn't have that in mind. The story just happened to come into my head, that's all.
Well, I want to give Aunt Millie something. A present, maybe. Oh, shucks, what could I give her? I have no money.
Well, of course, there are lots of things that don't cost 1 penny. Not a single red cent, you know?
Oh,
Well, now, let's see. Take that little spruce over there. It'd be real easy to cut that down, and with a little fixin', a few doodads from around the house, I bet you could make a Jim Dandy Christmas tree.
Well, I suppose so. What's a tree without something to put under it?
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Johnny, you don't happen to know Jim Bender, do you? Thompson Corners, has 3 daughters?
Oh, he has 2, Sarah and Emmy.
Oh, is that so? That's so. I'm spending Christmas with them. Looks like I am carrying an extra present. It's a real pretty little red bonnet with feathers on it.
Oh, I couldn't take it, mister.
I wasn't thinking of giving it to you, Johnny, but I was sort of hoping you'd show me the trail here on it. Of course, it would mean you're turning around and going back home. If I was the cause of you changing your plans, I'd feel obligated to pay you back some way, you know.
Well,
Well, it's only fair. I don't have much money, so if you wouldn't mind accepting me giving you the bonnet, you'd be doing me a real favor, Johnny.
Well, there's Aunt Millie out in the yard. Well, she looks real mad.
Well, there is a resemblance, I'll have to admit to that.
Where in tarnation have you been, John Carl? I've been looking high and low for you since dawn.
Well, I just went for a little ride, Aunt Millie, to get a Christmas tree, see?
Christmas tree? Fiddlesticks.
But this gentleman helped me cut it down. Well, I'll take it inside. Be right back, mister.
As if we had any use for a Christmas tree. I suppose he's figuring there will be a lot of presents under it.
No, I don't think so. But just between you and me, I got a hunch there will be at least one present waiting for someone.
What are you talking about?
No. It wouldn't be fair of me to speak before Christmas, you know.
You don't mean he's got something for me, do you?
No. You mustn't get so curious now.
But I thought he didn't like me. I thought he was upset about having to live here with an old maid. I guess I just don't know nothing about kids. Nothing at all. I don't deserve to get a present.
Well, I better get moving along. Say goodbye to Johnny for me, and I wonder if you would give this to him. Tell him the little blade on it is kind of dull, but...
A pocket knife?
Yeah.
Now, how did you know? Oh, God bless you, mister, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Please remember now, beginning January 2nd, the 6-shooter will be on Thursdays instead of Sundays. We hope you'll join us in our new time. The 6-shooter is an NBC Radio Network production. Mr. Stewart may soon be seen in the Universal International picture of the Glenn Miller story. All characters and incidents are fictitious, and any resemblance to actual characters or incidents is purely coincidental. And now, until Thursday, January 2nd, this is Hal Gibney speaking. Merry Christmas. All right, let's meet the cast of the 6-shooter. The foreman of the ranch and also the man on the street was Tom Duggan. Eben's old partner Jake was played by Andre Dixon. The foreman's wife was Ellie Babka. Little Tim was Donna Amesmeyer. Eben's ghost was Kathy Juarez. Nell Brennan was Eben's old girlfriend. Marty McNulty was on sound effects and was also Eben's nephew. Aunt Millie was played by Sue Gajinski. Jacob Pelka played Johnny. Eben was Dave Sanchi. And Britt Pomsett was played by Herb Thompson. Before I close, I want to introduce next month's director, Dave Sanchi, who has 2 great shows planned for you in January. So, Dave.
To start the new year, we're going to have 2 shows. The first one will be X-1, Mars is Heaven. This is about a space expedition to Mars, and what they find there is more than what they bargained for. Spoiler alert, it's not Emperor Ming. Flash Gordon took care of that. And then we have Fibber McGee and Molly, and that will be Fibber planning on a trip to a camp out to Dugan's Lake. So I'm sure you'll enjoy the shows, so tell your friends and everyone, and we're looking forward to seeing you in January. Thank you.
We also made a little change to our original calendar. The show is being moved to Friday, January 29th. It was the 22nd at the beginning of the year, but we decided to move it to the 29th. So if you can make that change and join us, we would greatly appreciate it. Just a reminder that we're not the only place you can enjoy old-time radio. 3 local stations continue to broadcast programs from radio's golden age. Saturday afternoons between 1 and 5, you can hear Those Were the Days with Steve Darnall on WDCB 90.9 FM out of the College of DuPage. On Sunday and soon Saturday evenings between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m., Carl Amari and Lisa Wolf host the WGN Radio Theater on 720 a.m. And every weeknight, if you're up late, you can listen to Greg Bell's When Radio Was on WBBM 780 AM and 105.9 FM. Special thanks to the Riverside Township for making these shows be possible. Steve and Ann Kubitsky for always coming and helping us out. Yes. Also, thanks to Ellie Babka and Donna Amesmeyer for our publicity, for getting information out there, for keeping everybody in the loop on what's going on with shows and other things, copying of scripts, etc. There's so many things that they do to make it possible for us to be here. So thanks to them. If you ever miss a show or want to watch it again, you can thank Andre Dixon for that because he runs our YouTube page and uploads every program from each month. And you can access that off of our website, riversidetownshipradioplayers.com. Yes, riversidetownshipradioplayers.com. And you can also go on YouTube and just search Riverside Township Radio Players, and all the shows will pop up. Thank you, Andre, for that. There's so many things that Marty McNulty does, and besides sound effects, which is incredibly time-consuming and important. But he runs our website. He does characters. He does an incredible job with sound. I had the unique experience this month of transcribing the six-shooter, and I thought it would be very easy. It wasn't at all. And just throughout the entire process, in indicating where sound comes in and everything, I thought of Marty throughout the entire time, and just amazed at how amazing of a job that he does with this, and how precise he is. And I don't think we realize how good he is. But thank you, Marty, for all that. Well, we hope you enjoyed our two holiday programs tonight. We had a great crowd. Thank you for coming. Hopefully it stops snowing. It isn't too slick out there for you. But please take note again, Friday, January 29th will be our next show. And we certainly hope to see you and your friends there. So until then, thank you. Have a great holiday. Have a great holiday season. Thank you for coming. Good night.